If you've had COVID-19 or some strain of it, you've most likely experienced cognitive dysfunction, otherwise known as brain fog. Hi, I'm Dr. Oliver Siriset, and I'm here to tell you that it is real. Brain fog isn't a medical or scientific term. It's a term used by individuals to describe how they feel after COVID. Sluggish, fuzzy, downright exhausted. For some, the brain fog lasts up to 8 months. Siriset has helped others, and we can help you. Siriset, relax, rebalance, reset.
It's a high-tech race with China. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. Billions of infrastructure dollars being given as grants to 20 companies that'll help boost U.S. production of batteries for electric vehicles.
The president says sales of electric vehicles have more than tripled since he took office. By the same token,
with more electric vehicle sales, the demand for batteries and the critical minerals that go into those batteries has grown, is going to continue to grow.
The president says the effort will cut into China's lead in making the EV component. He added Republicans have been critical, but some also want the project for their district.
Fox's Gernal Scott. Separately, BMW announcing a nearly $2 billion plan to build electric vehicles in South Carolina, where Senator Lindsey Graham calls batteries the new oil, pledging to hold a hearing on EV materials if Republicans win control of the Senate. The president releasing more oil from the strategic reserves, denying it's political ahead of the midterms, while Republicans and the industry continue to criticize his energy policies. A taxpayer group in Wisconsin wants the nation's highest court to step in as a legal fight continues over the president's plan to cancel some student debt.
The Brown County Taxpayers Association asks the U.S. Supreme Court to block President Biden's student loan forgiveness program, claiming it tramples the constitutional spending power, arguing the administration made it without congressional approval. The Wisconsin-based group also alleges the plan violates the Administrative Procedure Act, that it will have a gargantuan increase in the national debt, and that it violates the Equal Protection Doctrine, citing White House documents stating the policy is more likely to help borrowers of color.
Fox's Christian Goodwin. It's one of several lawsuits challenging the plan. This as a new government website to apply for relief suffers early glitches and questions about oversight of the program with no proof of income being required. America is listening to Fox News.
Yes, missed you this morning. Kim told me you weren't feeling well, so I'm just doing a self-care check.
Oh, thank you, friend.
How you doing?
Girl, listen, my energy was so low because I didn't eat breakfast when I got up, so I had to miss virtual yoga with y'all.
Trust me, I understand.
But I'm doing much better now that I've eaten, so I'm back on track.
Great. In that case, let's get some steps in tonight. I'll come over and we can walk around the lake.
Sounds good. Appreciate you being in my business, too. Now, let me get in yours. Did you check your blood pressure today?
I did that and my squats, okay?
Okay.
High blood pressure is not going to be my friend if I can help it. See you at 6?
Let's get it. See you then.
Now more than ever, it's important that we protect our hearts and the hearts of those we love. Check in on one another and be a part of a healthy blood pressure movement. Rally your squad to take the online pledge at releasethepressure.org. Brought to you by the Release the Pressure Coalition and the Ad Council.
Mainly clear skies this evening with temperatures hanging in the 50s and a breeze out of the southwest between 5 and 15. Overnight, then, we'll drop off to a low into the mid to upper 30s with a southwest wind at 5 to 15. And partly cloudy skies for your Thursday, a mild breezy day with highs in the lower 60s. And we'll shave a few degrees off for Friday with highs back to 60 before we warm it back up over the weekend. From the Skywatch Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki.
Today's weather is brought to you by Summit Carbon Solutions. The ethanol industry is critical for the North Dakota economy and our farmers. Summit Carbon Solutions is opening new economic opportunities for ethanol producers and helping maintain a strong market for corn growers while generating millions of dollars in new property taxes to help local communities support our schools and hospitals. Visit summitcarbonsolutions.com to learn how this project is driving the future of agriculture in North Dakota.
Live from the PetroServe USA studio, it's the Chris Berg Show, your daily dose of truth to help set you free.
Well, the big debate happened last night. We are waiting on Dr. Scott Jensen here to join us in a moment. So, John and Chris, if we can get him on the line, that would be fantastic. We're going to have a fascinating conversation with him. If you missed the debate, we'll give you some of the highlights. I will give you some of those tonight as well. And also, earlier today, I was out at the big announcement on Grand Farm just outside of Castleton. And I got to share with you before we bring in Dr. Jensen here, and hopefully, John, as soon as you get him on, let us know. And it's really incredible to me what's happening in the state of North Dakota. Born and raised here. We've talked about this before, but so often we've been referred to as the Buffalo Commons or flyover country or whatever sort of name you want to have that's going to degrade the great state of North Dakota, go for it. And I'll touch upon this, at the end of the show as well. But I want to share something with you quickly, just to share with you kind of where the state is at. Because when you take a step back and appreciate how good things are right now in the state of North Dakota, it can kind of take you back. And I think Governor Burgum summed it up well today at the Grand Farm event, where he said, they were over recently at a trade expedition, if you will, over in Japan. And Japan right now, because obviously he's like, look, there's 126 million people in Japan. 126 million people that live in an area the same as North Dakota and South Dakota. When you think about that for a moment, all right, we're going to get Dr. Jensen. So Chris, if you can help out as well, that would be great. I was going to text him, and there's just so much going on today, but we'll get him here. And otherwise, super producer Chris Larson, if you don't mind. I'm great, Dr. Jensen. We get Dr. Jensen on my phone. Dr. Jensen, I'm going to have the studio call you so we can, we're live right now, but bring you in for the show. Okay, sir? All right, thank you. So nothing like live radio. Anyways, 126 million people in Japan in the same area as North Dakota and South Dakota. And his point was, 80% of the food there needs to be imported in Japan. 100% of their energy needs to get imported as well. And then he made a really good point. He goes, when we were over there, North Korea actually launched a missile over the island of Japan. And he said, guess what? If it was a real missile and Japan needed defense, and I don't know how this would work, but Governor Burgum said, you want to know who would defend him and how it would happen? It would be an ICBM, a missile coming from the Minot Air Force Base. Like that is how much North Dakota feeds, fuels, and protects the entire planet. We'll talk more about this towards the end of the show because we've got Dr. Jensen now on the line. Thank goodness. So, Dr. Jensen, as always, thank you for the time, sir. I thought you did a great job last night in the debate. So before we get to the debate, though, I do have to ask you a question. There is now information coming out tomorrow that the CDC is looking to require the COVID shot for school kids. And they're going to make this vote tomorrow, which would give eternal immunity to Pfizer and Moderna and these pharma companies. What say you about the possibility of the COVID shot being on the immunization list for school kids?
At this point in time, I'm hesitant that we should be doing this because I don't think we have the data. And I think we've obviously been doing vaccines for decades and decades. But in my 40 years of medicine, we haven't seen this kind of rapid mutation and turnover like we have with COVID. This is a unique situation where we've gone from a 2-dose base vaccination plan to an additional booster. I had a patient today that was quite proud of himself because he's had 5 doses now. And now we're talking about putting it on the childhood immunization schedule. I think one of the downside risks that we have to be aware of is that America's not buying into this, and a lot of parents aren't. And I think we're creating, potentially unwittingly, a lack of trust that's so profound that the vaccines, which parents have normally said yes to almost automatically, such as measles, mumps, rubella, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, these kinds of things, They're saying no to them now. I've seen that in my office, and I don't have a large pediatric population that I care for any longer. I have some kids, but nothing like when I was much younger and delivering babies. But I talk to my colleagues, and I talk to grandparents who are patients of mine, and they tell me, Chris, that they were surprised, but their daughter or their son and their son-in-law or daughter-in-law have decided not to vaccinate their kids for a while. They're just sort of pressing pause. So I think sometimes we don't think things through well enough, and there's downstream consequences that may be far more problematic than people might ever anticipate.
Well, yeah, and you look at the data that's been coming out of Florida as of late. I mean, I think it was a 84% increase in cardiac deaths for men 18 to 39. We have no idea really what this is going to do for kids. I've got a text, I don't know if this is true or not, but Kelly Jansen saying that they voted today and passed it 15-0. So super producer Chris Larson, if you can check on that and confirm or deny that, that would be great, because all the reports I've seen is the vote is going to be so that is confirmed. So I guess I don't know what just happened, Dr. Jensen. All the news reports, the vote was going to be tomorrow. Apparently they moved it up. Today's Wednesday, right? Am I losing my mind? Or yeah, I mean, today's Wednesday, and they moved it up apparently and voted it 15-0. I you've been inside this game for a long time, Doctor. You and I had the now very, very, very famous interview when you talked about how they were asking you to put things on, death reports that maybe weren't 100% accurate. So you understand what's going on here. How, knowing that the lack of data, how could the CDC vote 15-0 to say, yeah, let's put this on the child school immunization list?
It was at the CDC or the FDA?
My understanding is that I've got here, what I've read is the vote was going to be tomorrow with the CDC's advisory committee. Now, the CDC ACIP, whatever the ACIP is.
ACIP is the advisory, it might be something like the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, something like that. And so the ACIP usually provides an advisory perspective, and typically it's followed. So I was not aware that the vote took place today either, but I knew it was coming up very shortly. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are just going to say, hold it, we're just not comfortable. So I'd like it if they would have a certain discussion period before this becomes any kind of a mandatory edict, because I think there's going to be a lot of very thoughtful and intellectually driven pediatricians and family practitioners and other physicians that will be able to step into it and hopefully have a big conversation about it, because that really does matter. We really need to be careful, and I've certainly gotten myself in hot water previously because I've been clear that I have some skepticism about some of the measures we've taken, and I do know that there has been a certain drop-off of vaccination rates, and I think major media publications have written about this as well, that when you look at the overall vaccination rate of some of the more standard vaccinations, which has stood the test of time, that even there's a drop-off. So I would just caution. I'm perhaps a little surprised, Chris, but a lot of the decision-making from our public health authorities over the last 2 or 3 years has been, at times, it's been confusing. I think even Dr. Walensky from the CDC has acknowledged that they haven't done a very good job of communicating at times, and they've got to be better.
Thank you for saying that. She said herself, and Doc, I obviously I didn't expect us to go down this path today. This is new news coming out, and that's kind of the good and the bad of running for governor. Things happen every single day, and you've got to address them. So let's talk about last night. I mean, I thought towards the end there, you were owning it. You're running with Matt Burke, former Vikings guy, so he's used to watching a lot of game film. I'm assuming you guys did sort of your game film assessment of your performance last night. What did you like? And then there's always times in a debate you look back and like, I wish I would have done that a little bit different. What would you have done differently?
I have not I've not watched it. I watched just small clips. I watched, one of my team members sent me a clip of the closing And there was also, I saw the clip on my healthcare response, and but I've not had a chance. I was seeing patients all day, and then I had meetings, and I just got done giving a quart of plasma because the blood bank contacted me the other day and said they needed plasma, and would I please give some? And I hadn't given it in a while, so I said sure. So I went in and did that. So I just got out of the blood bank, and I'm on my way to another meeting. But I think things went fine. I think that Governor Walz, I think he represented himself well, and I think I did fine. I think that Governor Walz spent a lot of time, it seemed, attacking me, and very little time talking about any accomplishments over the last 4 years. And I don't know if that was generally appreciated during the course of the debate, but I think that's significant when you've had the governor's seat for 4 years. You would think that there'd be a fair amount of discussion about what you've accomplished. And the fact is, there wasn't. He doesn't really seem to have any signature legislation or initiatives that he's gotten through. Arguably, he's been labeled the godfather of the crime epidemic across the nation. And from an inflationary standpoint, he's been considered by many to be more of a copycat of California than having tried to tailor a plan specific to Minnesota's needs. And I think a huge majority of Minnesotans believe that to get to a complete mandate that all new vehicles sold in 2035 have to be electric vehicles, and that Tim Walz is considering continuing to copy California to the point where internal combustion, even lawn equipment and potentially farming equipment, these things would be taken off the opportunities for the consumer.
Dr. Jensen, I apologize, sir. We've got you for a limited amount of time. I've got literally 45 seconds left. Everybody I come up to these days is like, hey, honestly, can Dr. Jensen win? How do you win? And I got 45 seconds, sir.
We're 2 points down right now in the most recent poll we saw. And we outraised Tim Walz money-wise over the last month or two. I think that we absolutely have the momentum. We're 2 points down. They've spent $15 million trying to denigrate and vilify Matt Burke and Scott Jensen, and this is where we're at. So we're very optimistic. Tim Walz doesn't have much to run on other than putting out a sort of a bright, shiny object as an issue that's not even on the ballot, and that's his whole emphasis. So, yeah, we think that Tim Walz is in deep trouble, and we think that that was partly why he seemed uncomfortable at times last night during the debate.
Yes, and he's got Kamala Harris coming into the state on Saturday. That's got to tell you something. Dr. Scott Jensen, thank you for the time, sir. Let's do this again very, very soon. It's a little bit hard to hear you, so we'll set it up where we can hear you clearly and have a very thorough conversation, okay?
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Doc. Appreciate it. Dr. Scott Jensen, you can find out more at drscottjensen.com. Stay with us when we come back. Do you still feel safe in Fargo and Cass County? We're going to talk to a very special guest. We'll find out what can he do to improve your safety in our community. That's next, right after this.
Hi, Jeff from a cutting-edge gallery of jewelry, and we're talking lab diamonds.
Your farm and business depends on a reliable source for energy. PetroServe USA is the customer-owned co-op committed to being a stable source of fuel for your equipment and propane to dry your grain. We have the capacity to make sure you never run out of fuel and to keep prices stable. Dependability, competitive prices, and exemplary service. That's PetroServe USA, helping America fuel better. PetroServe USA. Call today.
Why wouldn't you do the same for your biggest asset, your home? If you want to know right now what you could sell your home for in this hot market, go to FargoHomeValues.com. Type in any address and find out instantly. You might be surprised how much you could get for your home. Again, that website is FargoHomeValues.com, or call me, John Nasala, for a personal valuation. Find out more at jkpropertypartners.com.
High Point Networks helps companies buy and use technology. Your success is our success. From network infrastructure to unified communications, data centers to security, we have the experts to help. Our relationships are built on trust, and the foundation of our solutions is service. Here to maximize your company's resources. High Point Networks, always connected.
This November, North Dakotans will vote on Measure 2 to legalize marijuana. I'm Scott Brand, former soldier of the Army National Guard, military veteran, and an attorney from West Fargo. I guess people know I'm a pretty straightforward guy, so I'm letting people know that I'm voting yes on Measure 2. When I returned home from Iraq in 2007, I saw fellow veterans suffering from PTSD and debilitating pain. For many people struggling with serious health issues,
Been looking for a golf cart for the lake, cabin, or the course? Largest selection of Club Car Onward golf carts within 150 miles is available at All Season Motorsports. 0% financing. That's 0% financing for up to 36 months on 2022 and 23 Club Car golf carts. All inventory must go. Largest selection of club cars at 0% financing. All Season Motorsports off I-94 and Cheyenne Street, West Fargo. Hurry before they're gone.
At Starion Bank, we think having choices is important, so you can choose a financial partner and the financial products that are right for your life. We offer tools that allow you to safely and easily bank no matter the time or your location. Your money, your choice of innovative solutions. We know it's important to spend less time worrying about your finances and more time living. What are you waiting for? The possibilities are endless. Explore banking here. StarionBank.com. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to the Chris Berg Show, your daily dose of truth to help set you free. We're coming to you live from the PetroServe USA studio, also home of Cafe USA. They got great lunches going on there, great goodies. So they got the brand new place in Harwoods. If you happen to be driving, it's kind of by the Amazon, shipping center now. So if you're out in that area, stop into a big, beautiful new PetroServe USA with a Cafe USA. You can go in there and get some hot stuff pizza, some great lunch, and things like that. So there's a lot of Cafe USAs within the PetroServe USA helping you in America fuel better. So be sure and check those out. I asked you before the break, I said, there's been so much going on in our community as of late. The big conversation oftentimes is, do you feel safe? We've seen what's happened with Jupiter Paulson. We've seen some of the overdose deaths from fentanyl and things that are going on. And, I've said on when I was doing TV, I've said it now on the radio, like it's just not your grandpa's Fargo anymore. So we got a very special guest in studio with us. He's running to fill Birch Burdick's shoes because he is retiring. He's running for the Cass County State's Attorney position, Ryan Younger. And Ryan, thanks for being here. It's great to see you, sir.
Hey, what a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you on a beautiful October day.
How about this? I see folks fetching. They got dogs out here that are fetching balls or something. How about that?
There's been some moments so far you're like, oh, man, is the snow coming? And then you have a day like today. We're like, okay, we're good. So safety. Everyone's talking about it these days across the country. If you win this race, what's the single most important thing you will do to improve the safety of people within our community?
It's keeping up and strengthening our efforts on violent crime. I have spent over 21 years doing that, and I have, as the head of the violent crimes team at the office, been the guy that people come to and say, hey, Ryan, we got a tough case here, but we need you to prosecute this. Would you take a good look at this? And that's the kind of stuff that over the years, and sometimes my cases aren't that, publicly loud, if you will. There's sometimes between a person and a victim and a guy that's kind of unknown and someone else, but I have all those big cases under my belt too. But those are the kind of cases that really mean something when you can dig down into them and say, you know what, I really helped the community. I really helped a kid. I really helped a victim in a kid's case, and we put a bad guy away. And so I'm glad to do that for the community. And you'd mentioned Jupiter Paulson. That's, of course, one of my latest ones, and so glad to do that stuff and play that role for the community. I really take pride in that and invest myself in it.
I wanted to ask you about that case specifically. If you're just joining us, Ryan Younger, and he's running for the Cass County State's Attorney's Office. We've got him for a segment here, so if you want to call in and ask him a question, very easy to do, 701-271-1100. Again, it's 701-271-1100. 1100. The question I have for you, and I know this wasn't necessarily inside of your responsibilities, but I don't want to even use his name, but the person that was convicted of killing Jupiter, how was he even on the streets? You
Yeah,
look at his
that's
record, it's like,
I know. Those are very tough questions for all of us to answer. And the way I have talked about this is the last few years as we've gone through COVID, we ended up with this kind of catch and release mentality through that. Now, some of it was necessary, and I absolutely understand the fact that we had to keep people healthy and safe at the jail for a period of time. There's about 300 inmates out there, and the sheriff. I work very closely with the sheriff and value that relationship highly. There was a lot we had to do there, but what kind of happened in the court system then was the bar was, raised, if you will, as far as who we should keep in jail. And I think a lot of that happened. I saw guys with uh, 5, 6, 7 prior felonies before they were finally kept in jail on high enough bonds. I mean, some of that stuff is hard to understand, but I was right there when it was happening, and I think that kind of mentality happens. Of course, if you over rely on our community partners to try to help the problems that we really need to keep violent and repeat offenders in jail and prison. That's important.
so help me understand. Because you said, hey, Chris, it's hard to understand why. I don't understand it, and I can't imagine you trying to explain it to Jupiter's dad.
Yeah, and those are the kinds of things that I was glad to do, to play that role and say, "Hey, I'm the guy that's going to come in here. We're going to get this guy. We're going to go after this. This is an important case for us and the whole community." Of all the cases, and I worked on the Savannah Graywin case years ago as well. As if you go back far enough, the Knack Vinda and Kirkpatrick cases, so 15 years ago. But all of those were on my radar and on my plate, and I worked those trials. This case really impacted the community. They had the community funeral. There's more people have reached out to me about that case and getting that good outcome than I think probably any of the other cases I've touched on over the years. And so I was glad to have those conversations. But you also have to talk that through with the family and say, okay, that was then, this is now. Let's work on the now. And that's a lot of the way I look at this too, is that with our issues that we have with rising violent crime in our community and downtown and other places, is I want to be here for the now, and I want to help us move forward with prosecuting those cases, because prosecutors are law enforcement, and that's the role we play, and I'm glad to do it.
Join us now. He's running for the Cass County State's Attorney's Office, Ryan Youngren. You mentioned the increase in violent crimes downtown. What's at the root of it?
I think there's probably a big mix of things, but I will not pretend like the law enforcement role side of things, and I'll try to include myself in, doesn't play a role. I mean, I think we do have to step up. Fargo's growing. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more people around. Right now, we're in that phase where, that you'd mentioned the fentanyl, some of that other stuff that's out there. And I think that if you mix all of our community changes with kind of the culture right now, it's a swing first and ask questions later sometimes kind of mentality with some of these things. And that's where our role as prosecutors, we have to be the ones that stand up and say no. And we have to say, you're going to be punished. You're going to take responsibility for what happened here. And I value that, and I'm glad to play that role for the community.
So all you can do is lock them up. But if you did have a magic wand or could give some feedback to some certain people, what would you do to lower or mitigate the violent crime that's increasing here?
Yeah, and to lower and mitigate that, I think that there probably is a lot of different ways that one can look at that culturally. So a big picture type thing. We are part of the drug court in Cass County. I value that highly. I think that when you can take people and who are really ready, it's the old, bring a horse to water thing. You can't force people to accept or to complete drug court or to complete treatment programs. You can't. They have to be ready for it. So the supply and the demand piece on drugs, meth dealers, fentanyl dealers go to prison. People that are using and are lower level offenses, yeah, we need to take those guys and get them help. And I'm glad to play that role too.
Gosh, there's a lot to talk about. We got a limited time. So I think back to recently, there was kind of I don't know if you call it a sting operation, but Highway Patrol came into Fargo and helped add some more bodies and eyes that particular night. I think it was within like 5 hours they had 8 DUIs, 9 people with fentanyl. The numbers were staggering in such a short period of time. Single most important thing you would do or that needs to happen to get our community rid of this fentanyl?
Yeah, and so, for me, is attacking the supply piece of it and getting aggressive with those guys. That's the prosecutor's role, and I really think that for me, I have to play that role, and I can't pretend like that stuff's not happening, and then just kind of let that go. If I have to stand up as the leader of the office and say we see this in our community, and I'll tell you very sad story. My one of the kids, I coached hockey for 10 years and was my son's age, and he overdosed on fentanyl, purchasing it off the street. And he may not have known exactly what he was even buying. And so some of that kind of stuff is where, I can feel the hair stand up on my neck. I mean, that funeral was very, very hard to go to. And I feel very invested in doing something for the community with those folks. But the addicts, those people on that side of it, we have to address the supply and the demand piece and law enforcement. And I think everybody in a modern law enforcement environment really understands that at this point.
We got to leave it there. So we got about 35, 40 seconds. Just if people want more information about you, how do they get a hold of you?
Thanks for asking. So I'm on Facebook. I have a website as well. It's Youngren for State's Attorney. And I've got the endorsement of the Fraternal Order of Police, and those are my guys, and I'm glad to work with them and stand up for our community, and I hope to get everybody's vote on November 8th.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks
Good
a
luck.
lot.
Appreciate it. Again, Ryan Youngren, he's running for Cass County State's Attorney. Birch Burdick is retiring, so he could potentially fill those shoes. Great to see you. I know we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, stay with us when we come back. It is a Wellness Wednesday, and he just talked about the increase in violent crime. I mean, there's a lot of stress right now. Inflation numbers are way, way up. People are looking at it, hey, am I going to be able to afford grocery bills? Sometimes there's more month than there is money. So as you're dealing with some of those stressors, what can you be doing to not feel that stress, not have the impact that it is maybe having on your immune system, your health? We all know when you get very, very stressed, your immune system starts to go down. So what can we do to reverse that, keep you healthy and keep you out there to make sure that you can, make some money, be with family, and just flat out be happy? We got a very special guest that'll talk about that and much, much more coming up right after this.
Mainly clear skies this evening with temperatures hanging in the 50s and a breeze out of the southwest between 5 and 15. Overnight, then, we'll drop off to a low into the mid to upper 30s with a southwest wind at 5 to 15. And partly cloudy skies for your Thursday, a mild breezy day with highs in the lower 60s. And we'll shave a few degrees off for Friday with highs back to 60 before we warm it back up over the weekend. From the Skywatch Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki.
Welcome to Soybean Minute, your source for timely soybean news.
I'm North Dakota Soybean Council Director Chris Brozard of Wolford. Because soybeans can spend months in grain bins, proper care during the harvest and storage process is important to maintain soybean quality. Dr. Ken Hellavang of NDSU Extension recommends soybeans be harvested at 11 to 13% moisture to limit cracks in the seed coat and cooled with aeration to maintain their quality. Dr. Hellavang recommends avoiding temporary or emergency storage and considers selling other grains to free up on-farm storage for soybeans. All storage options need to prevent moisture intrusion and permit cooling the grain with aeration. To store in bags, soybeans need to be less than 13% moisture, preferably 11%. Select an elevated location and run bags north to south to achieve uniform temperature. Grain piles must have cover and aeration. A 1-inch rain can cause spoilage of the top couple feet of soybeans, resulting in huge loss. For more information, be sure to visit your NDSU Extension agent.
This message is brought to you by the North Dakota Soybean Council and the Soybean Checkoff.
Living this simple life, what does that mean? Broughton Cabinets knows. Their designers understand that some families want simple, clean, uncluttered kitchens. Yet they also realize that your coffee maker, smoothie blender, and bagel toaster all need to be easily available, yet cleverly hidden. Relax. Broughton Cabinets has been building custom cabinets for almost 50 years with the Broughton Promise, quality that stays on budget. Visit their new showroom on the I-29 frontage road south of Fleet Farm.
The reviews are in. My coffee is a big hit. People absolutely love it. One of our listeners said, Scott, I've sampled a lot of coffee, but this one's different. It's rich, but also very smooth, low acidity. The finish is clean, and it has a pleasant aftertaste. Try some for yourself today. Go to mystore.com. Use the promo code Scott for up to 25% off. Your choices include whole bean, ground, coffee pods, light roast, medium roast, dark roast, and a decaf. Again, in coffee pods, ground, or whole bean, your choice. And guess what? It's roasted and packed right here in the USA. It's guaranteed, like all the products at MyPillow. Mike Lindell invites you to try his new product, My Coffee, by going to mystore.com. Mystore.com. Use the promo code Scott or call this number, 800-506-9028. 800-506-9028 or mystore.com, promo code Scott for the best coffee you've ever had, bar none.
Not all real estate is the same. Jose Investments deals with exactly what you need. Are you looking to move into a building or buildings needing to warehouse your product? Maybe your company needs more space or another space for distribution. Some companies need a space specifically for manufacturing. See how these differ? Jose Investments knows the buyers and the sellers and can finish the deal you need to grow. Are you a buyer or a seller? Jose Investments is the company that specializes in these properties. Call Scott at Jose Investments today.
Hi, Lacey here with Precision Concrete Cutters. You've heard our ads about egress windows. They add sunlight, they provide an escape and add value to your home. All true, but I'd like to let you in on a little secret. You can add an egress window anywhere, even if there's no existing window. I know this because at Precision Concrete Cutters, we specialize in egress window installation and replacement. Precision Concrete Cutters, 701-280-7038. That's 280-7038.
The TVs are on in the studio, the PetroServe USA studio, by the way, helping you and America fuel better. It says here Kamala Harris hires her third chief speechwriter. So I'm just sharing with you to remind you that she's actually going to be in Minneapolis, St. Paul on Saturday. Governor Tim Walz is bringing her into the state, so you can deduce for yourself what that means for that gubernatorial race. Dr. Jensen joining us earlier. It is a Wellness Wednesday. I shared with you, I think it was the other day when Candace Owens, it was probably Tuesday, the day after Candace Owens was in town. And I said, look, we're going to talk more about this for you and I, because the longer that you and I live, the more obvious it becomes that one of the single most important things you can do is make your brain bulletproof. What do I mean by that? So that no matter what is going on in your environment, and Dr. All, I'm going to bring you in a moment, she and I were just talking about, the only thing that you really can control is your focus and your thoughts, thus your emotions. And when you could start to really master what you're thinking about, how you regulate your emotions, it is a whole new world. You get off what I call the thought plantation, and all of a sudden this whole new world opens up to you. And one of the ways that potentially could be opened up to you is through a great program called Siriset of Fargo. And the owner here is Dr. Alla. She joins us today. And Dr. Alla, welcome to a Wellness Wednesday. I always enjoy our conversations. How are you?
Thank you. It's so great. Thank you.
If you don't mind, I know we're going to get into the physical effects of stress, but just talk about kind of expanding the box, getting out of the sandbox that we've all been conditioned to be in, and getting out of it and going, ooh, there's a whole nother perspective here on life.
Yeah. And in order to do that, you have to step away from all of the effects that stress has already molded you to be, because you are part of the environment that you expose yourself to, and that changes and molds your mind that way. And so in order for you to be able to take on something new and create a bigger and more focused consciousness, you have to relax that brain away from its old patterns in order for it to reestablish or establish better patterns or new patterns. That's where Siriset comes in.
Which is very difficult to do when you're under stress, because I think you and I have talked about in the past is how, and I mentioned this yesterday, one of the things with COVID is to utilize the emotion of fear. And maybe you can dive into this from a brain perspective, but I remember when I used to go in and do tutoring in East LA, they would talk about like these young kids walking to class. They weren't thinking about school. They're just thinking about making sure there's not a bullet in their backpack by the time they get there. Like that totally changes what happened to the amygdala and your brainstem and what's going
Huge.
on. So once you sit in that classroom, like you ain't learning. You're just thinking like, okay, can I, have lunch by noon, right? So when you're under stress and fear, it changes how you process information. So speak to that, and then how does Siriset help overcome that?
Of course, stress is always going to be there. How we respond becomes almost a uniform pattern for many. Whether it's a stressor about school or whether you are truly being threatened, you may be responding to both of those scenarios the same exact way, as far as your body thinking you're truly in some sort of danger. And so it's very simple to measure the bloodstream when there is an element of fear. You can check and measure the blood, and you'll see that there are stress related factors released in the body. Those same stress related factors are released if you're worrying about a school test and you're in eighth grade. So now we have all of these chemicals in our body that are being released based upon our interpretation of something that we think is a threat. The brain wires to that, and it hardwires.
But there's going to be people out there listening going, hey, you know what? All this sounds great, but at the end of the day, in reality, like inflation's up. I don't know if I'm going to have enough money to get groceries, and there's more month than there is money. That's stressful. What do
It
you
is
say?
stressful. Well, I say there's an unlimited amount of potential, and you have to decide what you want, not what you need. You have to decide what you want. And when you change that perspective to what you want, you're going to figure out how to do that, because you're going to strategize and you're going to plan and you're going to stay conscious. You're not going to waste time in your lifetime not being organized, not being on point, not watching to make sure your children, are maybe seeking advice from those that they shouldn't be. You may be reducing your intake of alcohol. Maybe you're going to stop doing those, late nights. Maybe you're going to conserve your energy so that you know where to put it to. I don't think that America is in any threat unless it's a threat within their mind. And we have been unfortunately exposed to a lot that has changed how we look at things, we process things, and how we react to things.
So how does stress impact me physically? Like, is it lack of sleep? Is it
We can simply look at the statistics of heart disease. We can look at the statistics of cancer. We can look at the statistics of stroke. We can look at the statistics of diabetes. Every one of those has elevated and escalated. We can look at adverse reactions because of use of prescription medications. People are no longer on one prescription med, they're on 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6, 7, 8. And the question that one should ask is, I wonder how many interactions are being actually met from these meds coming into my body.
what do you mean how many interactions?
So how many interactions are these medications creating within my body and creating in itself a toxicity where the body's like, this is dangerous to me? Because we simply can't test every stress response we have, every medication we take, every poor dietary choice we make, how that's going to affect us. But we can look at measures of heart disease, hypertension. We can look at the incidence of stroke. We can look at transient ischemic attacks where a person has not the stroke, not the physical damage, but the events that lead up to it. Dizziness, lightheadedness, can't think, focus is gone, feeling weak, lethargic. These are very clear responses of the brain not being able to facilitate whatever stress is coming in at that person or within that person.
I mean, the things you just mentioned, though, sounds like everybody's tired these
A lot
days.
of Americans, that's
Yeah.
for sure. We don't take time to allow our brain to relax, rebalance, reset. We want to manipulate how it should feel rather than just feel. We don't take time to step back away from our commitments, responsibilities. We don't take time to rest. We don't rest well. We have our phones dinging next to our ears all night long. We have to have the TV set on. The brain simply cannot tolerate that much input over a 24-hour period. Eventually, it has to adapt to that influx, if you will, and it doesn't necessarily adapt well.
So everybody's dealing with a certain amount of stress.
Always.
So how
Stress is
does
what makes us strong.
Yes, but I mean, isn't there a tipping point where you're like, okay,
Only the interpretation, because stress will never leave us. It's always in front of us, whether it's cold weather, whether it's tax time, whether it's election time, whether it's changing jobs, whether it's I lost my job, whether I got sick or my family member just passed. Those are always going to be there. Our reactions are the issue.
so in other words, how I'm interpreting
How I'm
what's in front of
interpreting
me.
and responding to that event.
So how does Seroset help me change the interpretation?
It helps you get out of those old patterns that you have established and hopefully takes you from being reactive to proactive, where you can see and step back and use those experiences of stress and how you've responded in the past and look into a different direction. And our tech coaches and our Serious App process is second to none. Our tech coaches can help you identify how those patterns in your brain are the ones that must be changed in order for you to be able to move in the direction you want to move. And then you set big goals for yourself to go in that direction rather than default into the old patterns again.
I used to travel with Tony Robbins. He would talk about you've got a certain CD playing in your brain, right? And until you change the grooves in that CD, you're going to just keep running the same song. So is that kind of what Sirius does? It can come in, change the grooves, and I can play new music?
I think Siriset is even bigger than the grooves. I think it's taking and fine tuning you as if you were the most majestic piano that you've ever heard. It's allowing the brain to be fine tuned, and so that it doesn't have so much interference, doesn't have any of that,
For
That's
some
what I
people, it's
like.
hard to even imagine having that kind of clarity because things are just so murky right now because of this COVID and life and inflation and, blah, 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 blah. So I've got 60 seconds to give you the last word. What else do you want to share?
I just want to share that the process is sound, the process is safe, the process is here in Fargo and available to people. It doesn't use drugs, it doesn't use surgery, it doesn't influence you. It allows your own brain to see itself in real time, and the brain knows innately that it wants to find the path of least resistance. So it moves in that direction if you get out of its own way.
And the most important thing is that it's a free consultation.
Yeah, give us a call. We'll talk about whether
Don't forget about
Siriset
that.
is the next best step. And our tech coaches are ready to take your phone calls and try and help you understand the process, give you some information so that you can make an informed decision on whether it's the next best step.
Wonder Woman, do you want to add anything? We have Wonder Woman in studio with us, so I wanted to see if she wanted to add anything, but she's just going to go use her truth lasso and go fight for the truth.
There you go.
Right? The daily dose of truth to help set you free. Dr. Alice, Service out of Fargo, give him a call. Again, free consultation. It will help clear the fog, improve the focus. It's a pretty good alliteration. You might want to take
It's
them.
amazing.
Clear the fog.
Clear the fog.
Improve the focus.
Absolutely.
I'm a marketer. 701-566-5231. 701-566-5231. When we come back, it is incredible. What just happened today? What just happened even today in North Dakota? I'll explain right after this.
The DeWalt Fall Tool Sale is going on now at Acme Tools with savings throughout the store. Receive up to a $75 Acme Tools gift card with your DeWalt purchase. Get your choice of a free bare tool or a free battery with select 20-volt max single tool kits. Purchase 2 of any qualifying 20-volt max bare tools and get 2 free batteries and charger valued at $319. Take advantage of these great deals and hundreds more now through October 31st at Acme Tools. Do your best work.
It's the first unlimited full-service and exterior works wash club at Don's Car Washes. You can have the best of both worlds with unlimited interior and exterior washes at the Don's on 13th Avenue and unlimited exterior washes at the Don's on 52nd Avenue. Truly unlimited washes for only $49.99 per month. Join Don's Unlimited Wash Club. Exterior unlimited washes starting as low as $19.99 per month. It's never been easier to put a smile on your car at Don's Car Washes.
When it's time to replace your old countertops with the fresh look of stone, think Brockmeyer Tile and Stone. We've added a gorgeous new showroom in Fargo and can't wait to help make those remodel dreams reality. Featuring over 200 styles and colors of quartz and granite that's quarry to kitchen. At Brockmeyer Tile and Stone, we specialize in custom fabrication, and no project is too big or too small. Our showroom is sure to become your go-to for all your next projects. For granite and quartz and sinks too. Brockmeyer Tile and Stone, 833 24th Avenue East, West Fargo, just south of Costco.
They call it the Golden State. Now, California leads the nation in homelessness and crime, while businesses and taxpayers are fleeing. And the woke agenda is so bad, they're pushing it for non-citizens to sit on juries and kids as young as 16 to vote. And even liberal Governor Gavin Newsom may run for president. Now, Rob Schmidt goes to California to expose the madness. All this week, he's in Los Angeles telling the truth about California's dangerous ways and how it could infect America in your state. So watch Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax, 6 p.m. Central. Millions are tuning into Rob and Newsmax for the news they can trust. Find Newsmax on all major cable systems. If they don't carry it, call them and demand Newsmax. Millions have made the switch to Newsmax. Tune in for Rob Schmidt tonight and make the switch to Newsmax and watch Rob Schmidt tonight. Remember, Newsmax is real news for real people. You won't look back.
Are you interested in swapping stories over a good card game? Would you enjoy having 3 hot meals a day? Would it be okay with you if someone did your dishes, laundry, and helped manage your health concerns? For over 125 years, the Veterans Home has been providing quality care for veterans and their spouses. You were there for us. Now let us be there for you. Call us at 701-683-6500 or visit ndvh.nd.gov.
This ad is sponsored by the North Dakota Cares Coalition and aired in cooperation with the North Dakota Broadcasters Association and this station.
Everybody's got a hungry heart. Everybody's got a hungry heart. Lay down your money and you play your part.
Hey, welcome back. Want to remind you, you can always text the show 24/7. We got a brand new text line, very easy to do. It's 701-203-2260. Again, 701-203-2260. So as you're driving about, maybe you just want to shoot us, not while you're driving, but a quick text when you stop, pull over. Maybe you're pulling off into the new Harwood, the big and the beautiful PetroServe USA store up by Harwood, or there's a new one that's going up in Castleton as well. I want to remind you, you can email us to studio@chrisbergshow.com. Again, studio@chrisbergshow.com. Thank you so much to Red Wing Shoes for sponsoring our studio email inbox. Red Wing Shoes, so here's what you need to know. If you are someone that you need a protective, customized, to your feet work boot, go see Teresa at Red Wing Shoes. It's going to allow you to go out there. We know you're working hard when you're in the blue-collar gig. You need that protective aspect on the toe and the boot. They can take care of you there, but most importantly, then customize it exactly to your foot. So as you're out there working hard all day, you feel like, man, my feet, my legs, they feel great. Thanks to Red Wing Shoes at 3003 Main Avenue in Fargo. Again, that's 3003 Main Avenue in Fargo. Right now, they've got their Tough Love event. You can get a discount on some brand new work boots, on things to keep your boots looking great. Just ask for Teresa and she'll take care of you there. So much to talk about. I'm sure you've seen or heard about, Nancy Pelosi was on MSNBC saying, people aren't worried about inflation. Everybody we're talking to, they're just worried about abortion. The New York Times poll, it's a one-off. It's not accurate. We are going to win. We'll see. We'll see what kind of shenanigans are going to happen here in the next 3 weeks minus a day, believe it or not. 3 weeks minus a day till we get to midterm elections. We're going to have great election night coverage right here on AM 1100 The Flag. Myself, Scott Hennon, will be breaking it all down for you and talking about what's happening in the U.S. House, U.S. Senate, of course, local races as well. Keep your eye on the gubernatorial race between Jensen and Walz. There is a real shot. If everybody gets out to vote on the conservative side and some of the people stay home because they're tired of all the crime in Minnesota, there's a real possibility that Scott Jensen could be the next governor in Minnesota. I want to talk about two things here quickly. That if you were born and raised in North Dakota, I guess let me ask it this way. Have you ever seen a time in our state where we are more primed economically ever? Every quadrant in the state right now has just got something big happening. Earlier today, Governor Jack Dalrymple, Senator John Hoeven, Secretary of Ag Ed Schaefer, former governor was there, Governor Doug Burgum. You name it, they were there today just outside Castleton at the big Grand Farm announcement. Grand Farm is announcing their new innovation facility, right? They got a $10 million matching grant from the state. And you're talking about opportunities there to grow autonomous ag in a way that could transform not just North Dakota, but the entire world. They're going to be exporting so much tech, so many great things out of this Grand Farm innovation facility that I think it's going to stun many of us 5, 10, 20 years from now, how much Castleton, North Dakota is going to play in the future of feeding the entire population. Really, really incredible. That's 10 million there.
So I'm at this event, talking to a bunch of people, visiting with people from the Commerce Department. Then all of a sudden I start getting texts because there's an event out in Watford City in regards to what's going on the Bakken. And I get a text about, oh, hey, did you hear about the deal that we're going to be now potentially manufacturing, not mining, but taking mined ore and now making batteries for Tesla? I'm like, come on, what? And then sure enough, Governor Burgum's office puts out the announcement. So this is, I'll give you kind of the quick debrief here, but $400 million investment, create over 150 jobs with Talon Metals, and it's going to be a battery minerals processing facility right here in North Dakota. I mean, it's just, tomorrow we're going to have a special guest talking to you about how they're actually taking lithium out of water out in Western North Dakota. Lithium, very, very important piece, obviously, in creating these EV batteries. But so Talon is going to get $114 million from the Department of Energy. Obviously, North Dakota's, I'm sure, going to have some sort of tax breaks or whatnot to help bring them here as well. But they're going to take nickel that is mined in Minnesota, bring it into central North Dakota, produce it, do whatever they do, and now start to produce batteries for EVs and all different kinds of things across, again, an export for the entire nation and maybe even more. That is going to be a $400 million project right here in the great state of North Dakota. 150 jobs right here. I think it's in Mercer County, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really want to just read, press releases to you, but my point is that one of the big things that's happening right now in North Dakota is that we are innovating and not regulating. People are sick and tired of the regulations, and that's one of the great things that I think Governor Burgum, his administration, has been continually to talk about is, look, let's innovate, not regulate. Let's innovate, not regulate. So we'll continue to keep you abreast of all the exciting, just economic growth things that are happening right now in the great state of North Dakota. And another one, the reason I wanted to bring up Grand Farm, Senator John Hoeven mentioned, is that you've got now the Grand Sky up in Grand Forks. That thing is just absolutely booming. I mean, booming. So thank you so much for joining us here today on the Chris Berg Show. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about what I mentioned earlier, special guests, where they're pulling lithium out of water out in Western North Dakota. Also, the big energy crisis. Sounds like the Biden administration now wants to deplete the oil reserves even more. That and more coming up tomorrow at 4 right here on the Chris Berg Show.